All right. Happy early afternoon, everyone. Welcome to College Conversations. Today I'm joined by the always wonderful Chelsea from the University of New Hampshire. College Conversations is a series that Granite Edvance is hosting over the summer to help bring information about the colleges right in the New Hampshire backyard to New Hampshire residents who might be either thinking about a college themselves, supporting a student who's in that process, or maybe you're a school counselor and you're supporting a lot of students in that process. We just hope to bring information from the best sources on each campus, the admissions professionals that work there. I will note that this is being recorded. At the end, if we'll stop recording and go to Q&A. So if somebody has a more personal question they want to ask that they don't want living in the internet forever, we can happily take those questions then. And just the one disclaimer that Granite Edvance is hosting this, but we don't endorse one specific college, university, educational career pathway over other. This is just our efforts to bring good quality information to you all. So as I mentioned, I'm here with Chelsea from UNH. Chelsea, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chelsea Baker, and I'm one of the associate directors of first year admissions at the University of New Hampshire. I actually just celebrated my 18th year at UNH working in the admissions office. So it's been 18 years of working with New Hampshire students and helping them through that enrollment process. So good to be here this afternoon and looking forward to this conversation.
So 18 years, got a great amount of knowledge to kind of
Yeah.
help the families out as we go through here.
Yeah.
So I doubt there's somebody listening who's never heard of University of New Hampshire, right? I think that's a safe limb to climb out on, but
Or
this might be their first opportunity where they're hearing that deeper information about it, right? They might be familiar with it being the state's flagship, but at a real high level, how would you want to describe UNH and the type of student that thrives there?
Yeah, yeah. So it's funny because I think a lot of people think they know UNH, but then
Yeah.
sometimes, we encourage students come for a visit, come take a deeper dive because sometimes what you think you know and then what's actually on campus is surprising to students sometimes. So definitely always an open door in terms of getting to campus and visiting. I think location, that's really one of our biggest selling points is the beautiful seacoast area. We're close to everything. We have Boston about an hour south of us, Portland, Maine, an hour north
Mhm.
of us. Access to the seacoast region, the beach, we've got the mountains. We've got it all within about an hour of our campus. We have the train station, the Amtrak station right on campus as well, which is a huge benefit to students to be right down in, the heart of Boston in about an hour. And that also heads up to Portland, Maine. So students have access to some more urban areas. Durham itself is kind of a small, kind of quintessential New England town, some fun shops and a cute little downtown. But for the most part, UNH does take up a good area within Durham. So we are kind of that smaller town within Durham, and then UNH being kind of the flagship right there in that area. Our size is also kind of a unique perspective. So we're considered medium size, obviously for New Hampshire. I think we're the largest university in the state, but it's interesting because then you compare us to some other like public flagships out in the Midwest or down south, and we're actually pretty small in comparison. So it's all relative, I suppose. But kind of that medium size where really students have tons of opportunities. We have large research opportunities, a lot of social and extracurricular opportunities for students to take advantage of. But you're also not just like a name or a number in a sea of students in classes. Our average classroom size about 30 to 35 students. It has kind of that smaller, more intimate feel. So it's kind of that balance of not too big, not too small. We find that for most students, it's just right in the middle, and it's a good fit for them. And then I mentioned research. I think that's another thing that really sets us apart is that um, the opportunity for undergraduate research. And every year we host one of the largest and oldest undergraduate research conferences. And it's a great opportunity for students at that undergraduate level to kind of roll up their sleeves and begin to apply themselves. So that's kind of, high level, 120 different academic majors. I'm sure we'll cover some more in this conversation, but there's a lot happening, and
Mhm.
it's a really great institution for students academically and socially to advance themselves and kind of navigate themselves through their college career.
Awesome. Yeah, every time I'm on the campus, I'm struck by it does have that quintessential like New England vibe. It's a gorgeous place, and the I'm drawing a blank on the name of the hall with the two big
Oh,
like steepled.
Thompson Hall.
Yeah, Thompson
Yeah,
Hall is like
yeah,
it just feels collegiate,
yeah,
and it feels like it has a lot of that like gravitas to it. But it's really nice that it combines with those small class sizes, right? It
yeah,
feels like that big impressive place, but you're going to have that really personalized instruction. So it's a
yeah.
real nice function at UNH.
Yeah, when that clock tower chimes every hour, yeah, it still kind of gives me that ooh,
Yeah.
that feeling where it's like wow, it just it kind of completes that full package. And yeah, I always say if you don't like brick buildings, it's probably not the place for you. I mean, which is a New England campus where lots
Hmm.
of brick. It's just a beautiful campus, lots of green space as well, which we
Hmm.
really enjoy.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, what for the start of the conversation, we'll kind of go through like the student's college shopping process by timeline.
Yeah.
So, student is like, it's beautiful, it has my major, and they want to start thinking about that application process. Can you give us that walkthrough on UNH's application process, if you have early action, early decision, those sorts of pieces, and what students
Yeah,
expect as they go through that?
yeah, definitely. So we're like many, we're a Common App school. So that is the application we require for admission. And really looking at that common application, we're really learning more about the applicant at that point. So looking at your background information, looking at your extracurricular involvement, what you do outside of the classroom is really
Hmm.
important to us as we review. Essays are a great way to learn more about students. And so all of that really kind of plays into that overall application packet. We look at your transcript, obviously, is a big important piece. When we're asking ourselves, does the student have the ability to be successful at UNH? Looking closely at like grades, rigor of coursework plays a role in that, trends as well. So looking for obviously that upward trend or a student who's worked consistently over their 4 years. What we don't like to see, obviously, is a downward trend, but that
Hmm.
does. I mean, those trends do play a role, in our overall view of a student. Letters of recommendation we take a look at, so having kind of that third party perspective when we're looking at an applicant and hearing more about the contributions that they've made throughout their
Hmm.
high school career and how that will translate into their career at UNH is always kind of a nice thing to read in those letters of recommendation. So that's a complete application packet. We are test optional, so really putting it back on the student whether or not they feel that they want to submit test scores, SAT or
Hmm.
ACT scores for admission. We do consider them if a student submits them. It does not hold them back whatsoever if they choose not to send them in. And then talking about like early action, regular decision, those are our two kind of application pools that we have. So early action is just that. It's an early action. You apply early, we notify you early. There's no binding, part of that decision. Students can get their admission decision in November and not confirm until May. They can really just hang on to that decision and obviously factor in other schools and financial aid
Right.
packages and all of that before choosing. And then the regular decision is typically our final deadline to accept applications of February 1st. We do roll out decisions, so we don't have like one decision release date. We typically roll out decisions weekly. So
Mhm.
we kind of generally share about 4 to 6 weeks after your application becomes complete is typically when a student would hear back from us with their admission decision. Um,
And
yeah,
that's
and
for both early action and regular decision.
yeah,
Right.
yep, typically, yeah. I mean, the latest early action, we try to have all of our early action decisions out by like early to mid January.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that those are pretty much done there, and then we transition quickly into regular review and taking a look at that.
And does UNH participate in direct admission in any way?
Yeah, we do. Actually, we started a couple of years ago with
Mhm.
working with Niche, where students can apply for or fill out a form for direct admission. Students are matched with the university, and it's kind of like an expedited way for students to get their admission decision.
Mhm.
We start reading those really, mid September, and we start to release decisions and go right through. So, yeah, we encourage students to get on, create a profile with Niche, and then
Mhm.
if students will be notified if they match with UNH, and then they fill out an onboarding form. We do that official review, and they get their offer of acceptance. Again, it's kind of like an expedited review
Yeah.
for students. Yeah.
That's awesome. One of the things that we've seen in Granite Edvance that I think is there's some confusion with direct admit is if you try to do the direct admit process and you're not direct admitted, that you're not going to be admitted regular decision or early action. Can you
Yeah.
speak to
No.
like the nuance there a little bit?
Yeah. This is a great kind of rumor out there. So really, we've set a threshold for students to apply. So we're really encouraging those higher caliber students, to go through the niche. You'll match with us.
Hmm.
If you're not matched with UNH, it does not mean whatsoever that you're not a good fit for UNH. You're not going to be admissible through our regular admission process. It's just for whatever reason that match didn't happen. And so we would then encourage a student to fill out the common application and submit the document, all the supplemental information there, transcripts and letters of recommendation. So basically we recalculate a student's GPA. And so, that's done through that common app process. And we encourage students to go again for really strong students and students who have done well over their high school career. To be partnered through niche is one thing. If you're not partnered through niche, hop on common app, fill out that common application and submit it there, because it does not mean it really means nothing if you don't match with UNH. It's just a one path. I guess there's two different paths, the niche and
Yeah.
then the common app. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for clarifying that. I think it's
Yeah.
definitely the thing we see in like our kind of like independent advising role that seems to create the most like consternation with students. Is like, I don't know what it means. So I think we've
Right.
been trying to educate a little bit, but I think it's good to
Yeah,
reinforce.
there's also, kind of going off of that too, there's also some programs that we do not have on niche. So some of our
Hmm.
competitive majors, for example, we just don't have them on niche because they're a little bit more, we're taking a little bit more of an in-depth look at the application and the requirements for those competitive majors. So again, a student who's a top-notch student who wants nursing, for example, may not match with UNH because they want that specific major. So I
Right.
mean, that to your point, or to our point, just to go on Common App and fill it out there.
Awesome. All right. So student gets through one of these pathways, they're admitted. The next thing that I think a lot of families are thinking about is affordability, right? So can you talk a little bit about the financial aid scholarship process that
Yeah,
students
yeah.
experience?
Definitely. So, financial aid at UNH, the process really runs parallel to the admission process. So we encourage students
Mhm.
apply for, using the common application, apply for admission. Once you're done filling out that application, switch over to the FAFSA and start to fill out the FAFSA, which is the
Mhm.
free application for federal student aid. That goes into a federal processor. It's due by March 1. And then we work, it gets sent to UNH, works with our financial aid office to kick students out a financial aid package. So any additional scholarship, loans, grants, our work study program is all detailed in that financial aid package. In terms of merit scholarships, that happens earlier on. That happens at the time of admission. And so every single applicant who applies to UNH is considered for one of those merit-based scholarships. We currently have 5 different levels based off of that recalculated GPA, and it ranges in dollar amount, and they're renewable every year that you're at UNH. As long as you stay within good standing and you keep your GPA up, they are renewable. But students get that offer right in with their offer of admission for those merit-based scholarships. So that's a big component. Another thing that I think really that UNH does a good job at is about 95% of students receive some sort of scholarship or need-based financial aid. So it's always, when we share those tuition amounts, it's always like, whoa, that number looks high. But then to say 95% of our students don't actually pay this amount.
Right.
Knowing that it is, there are different ways that number comes down, whether it's through merit scholarships or through that financial aid process.
Mhm.
But there is a number of supports put in there for students to make the cost of UNH more manageable.
Yeah, that was going to be a follow-up I had is the sticker price piece because
Yeah.
I saw some research recently that said 70% of families have eliminated a college based on their sticker price. And I'm like, oh no, don't do that. Almost nobody
Right.
pays sticker price. Like, get
Right.
into the process. If it's
Exactly.
a college you're interested in, you should definitely apply for it and
Right.
do your
And
FAFSA and see what they come back with for a package.
yeah. And to do a little bit, I mean, look at that sticker price, but then do one step further and look
Hmm.
at, the types of aid. What are the average aid award
Yeah.
packages and things like that will give you more information about what students are actually paying versus like that kind of shocking sticker price. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so they get their aid package. This works for me. They pay their enrollment deposit, which is May 1 at UNH if I
Yeah.
am not losing my mind.
Yeah.
And that now they're a student. What's the day in a life like for a student at UNH?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. And I think, there's so many, we have such a diverse student body that not one day looks the same for any student, right? It
Hmm.
can really vary depending on your academic major, depending on what extracurricular involvements you're part of. Typically, students will take, I guess, looking at kind of your coursework and what that would look like in a given day. Students typically take about 4 courses a semester at 4 credits. That's kind of an average course load. Students can take anywhere from 12 to 20 credits. So maybe 2 or 3 classes a day. You weave in and out of there, study
Hmm.
sessions, time to grab lunch, maybe time to exercise or kind of get outside. There's just a lot of variety to students' days. We have like lab components to courses where students may have like an evening lab, or they may have an internship they go to. They may be working with a professor doing research. So I think all of this is kind of webbed in within a student's day, but also leaving time for fun. We have 250 different student-run organizations, and we actually find that those students involved in those organizations do better academically
Hmm.
at UNH. I find that I'm one of those people where it's like time management. When my time is kind of calculated and okay, this and then this and then this, I do better. I'm just a
Right.
little bit more structured in that sense, and I think we find students who have captured their free time and found ways to express themselves and have a good time and be with their communities.
Hmm.
They tend to thrive academically. So it's all a balance, right? Yeah, we
Yeah.
want students to have some fun outside of the classroom and be able to meet friends for dinner, or play on a sports team or intramural team, and all of that kind of is combined with academics is what really
Hmm.
makes a student thrive.
Awesome. And then on the academic front, say a student feels like they're not thriving academically or socially, personally, what kind of supports exist in Durham for
Yeah,
that student who maybe just needs a little guidance, a little support?
yeah, definitely. There's a lot. And actually one of my favorite statistics at UNH is our 4-to-1 student to faculty and staff ratio. I think we've focused so much on like what's the student to faculty ratio,
Hmm.
which is great, really important to have those connections with professors. But also it's like who's wrapping their arms around students and
Hmm.
making sure that students are happy and healthy and successful. And that's the staff in the residence halls, the staff in the dining halls, the librarians. That is the support staff throughout campus. And so that's where I think that 4-to-1 faculty or student to faculty and staff ratio is really important. Even just those like day-to-day connections, like what's up this weekend, or
Right.
what class that's on your mind right now, or just those day-to-day check-ins are so
Hmm.
important for students. So that's one thing. We also have a ton of supports put in place purposefully for students. So everything from our Center for Academic Resources, which works with students, a lot of skill building exercises. So study skills, where do I study best? Do I need to be in the library studying, or can I sit
Hmm.
in my room while my roommate watches TV and study? Just learning how the environment that where you take in the most information, test taking skills, a lot of those different skill based perspectives to academics is what the Center for Academic Resources looks at. We have career and professional success, so all the prep work going into making sure that students are prepared and ready and knowledgeable about career outlooks, internship placements, things like that. We have our student accessibility services, so everything runs the gamut of accommodations made in the classroom, in the residence halls. With documented disabilities, students do have to have documentation for accommodations there. We have a writing center, we have a math center on campus, so supports within those specific areas, which we find that
Yeah.
students can sometimes get caught up on. If you're in your English composition course as a first year and you're just stuck on a paper, sit down with a peer who's, a senior English major and really kind of, just talk it out and get through that paper, or have it proofread by a peer who's an English major, or yeah. So those are kind of some supports that are put in there. I'm trying to think, we have a NAC. NAC is our tutoring organization on campus. So
Mhm.
students who want a little extra, focus in specific courses can look at tutoring. Advisors, we have a great network of advisors for all student is assigned an advisor or can choose an advisor. So there's that academic support there. And then we have the resident, I could go on and on, resident
Yeah.
assistants, we have the residence hall directors. So kind of that support within
Mhm.
your living, in your residence halls is they're hosting socials and, bringing kind of students out to do different activities and have some fun and get to know one another. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of support for students, whether it's academic, whether it's in the residence halls, just finding a connection with other students. Yeah, there's a lot going on. And I always
Yeah.
tell students, like, you will not be bored. If you are bored, you can come to me and like tell me, but I know I can guarantee that there is so much stuff going on that
Yeah.
you will not be bored if you're looking for
Yeah.
something to do. Yeah.
And it strikes me that at UNH, which is big for New Hampshire, we'll put that caveat, university, right?
Yeah.
Students might have that fear of being like lost in the crowd, but the amount of services and support that you just shared makes it really clear that students don't get lost in the shuffle, right? And there
Yeah.
might be it's college. There's an aspect where they have to advocate for themselves, and like flexing that muscle might take a little bit of
Yes.
practice.
Yep.
But if they're out, if asking for the support, that it's there 100%.
Yeah. 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 That's exactly it. You do have to kind of raise your hand and say, hey,
Hmm.
I want to advocate for myself, or I want to put myself out there. But once you do, you will, yeah, you will join a network of people that are there to support you and really, really get you through.
All right, so I got three kind of more rapid fire ones for you. Obviously, give the
Okay.
explanation behind your answers. But um, first question: is there a program, a major, something at UNH you think deserves way more attention than it gets?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely some areas, I think first of all, looking higher level, I guess you want a quick answer. Yes, there's looking high level, we have UNH Manchester, we have our the law school, we have,
Hmm.
it's not just UNH Durham, there are some
Right.
other, we have more than one campus. So that we're, part of that larger University of New Hampshire system. That is great. I think some of our accelerated programs are relatively new over the last 5-ish years.
Hmm.
Those are wonderful opportunities. So we have a 3+3 program with our Durham undergrad, and then the law school in Concord, which is a great opportunity for students. A lot of like 5-year master's accelerated
Hmm.
programs where students start to take their graduate courses their senior year, and then complete both their bachelor's and master's degree in a matter of 5 years. I think students are just really smart, and they want to be efficient with their time and with their
Hmm.
money, and get in and get the most of their education. I think that's a great way for students to take advantage of that. And I think with the 5 different college divisions at UNH, there's just 120 majors that students can choose from. There's a lot of great options. I don't
Hmm.
think there's like one major that UNH is fully known for. It's this one thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really great options depending on a student's interest.
Yeah. Yeah, and for the people watching, to underscore those accelerated programs, they're not just about time, but there's significant cost savings by chopping a year off
Yes.
of your
Yeah.
education, right?
Yeah.
So as families who are thinking about that affordability piece that we talked about a little bit earlier, that's a great fit.
Yeah.
All right, next question. What is a misconception about UNH that you'd love to
Mm.
finally set the record straight on?
Yeah. Well, I think this is where, like, almost 20 years of working with New Hampshire students. It's, I think again, people kind of have, oh, I know UNH. My sister went there, or my brother went there. I
Hmm.
know somebody who goes there. Come visit us. Come do an official tour, or take a walk around by yourself, and really make sure you know UNH. Kind of take all your preconceived notions and focus on what your academic, what do you want to study. Talk
Hmm.
with professors, talk with faculty, just get to know it. Take a little bit of a deeper dive into some of the areas that you're interested. um, I think that, and then the class size in terms of like, well, everyone from my high school goes to UNH, and we used to travel around with like this little jar of marbles, and we'd represent for like every, you probably saw it. It was
Hmm.
like every 20, it was like, I don't know, there'd be like 100 marbles, which would represent a student's graduating class. And then there would be like 2 marbles, which would represent out of that graduating class who actually came to UNH. So it really kind of put in
Yeah.
perspective, like, wow, it feels like just because 10 people from my graduating class are going to UNH, but my graduating class is, 400 people. Well, when you get to UNH, there's 13,000 students on campus.
Right.
So those 10 students, sure, you can meet up and, grab lunch with them if you want to, but you are not going to run into them every single day. You are going to
Yeah.
see new people every day. You're going to meet new people every day.
Hmm.
And I think that's the beauty, but also kind of that, that the assumption that some students make. It's like, oh, it's going to be high school all over again.
Right.
It's definitely not the case.
Right.
It's definitely, um, we see students, and students will come and be like, I was shocked. I thought
Hmm.
I'd see these students all the time, and I never see them. And
Yeah.
it's a really great, so I think students who may just, shut us out for that purpose, and in particular, should really take a closer look, or do the marble trick, and it'll
Right.
kind of shock you, and you're like, oh wow, it is
Yeah.
actually impressive how, how few students are
Hmm.
actually there from your high school.
Yeah. I went to Plymouth State for my undergrad, and I had the same. I grew up in Goffstown, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna see my high school classmates all the time, and it was like, oh, the couple that I wanted to actually keep like talking to, I was like, we have to make plans to see each other
Right,
because
right.
even at a smaller school like Plymouth, it was not. We weren't being overrun, so I can
Yeah,
imagine at UNH it's even more so. All
yeah.
right, so and you might have touched on this one a little bit in that question, but if someone's on the fence trying to decide if UNH is right for them, right? What is one piece of advice you'd give them?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I say come to campus. Come check us out.
Mhm.
Come for a walk. And even like the summer months are great because students, it's much different than what it looks like in a couple of
Yeah.
weeks here when school starts up. You can kind of see a lay of the land, see the buildings, the facilities, and then if you like it, come back in the fall for. But I think, like our fall open house is a great opportunity to come to
Mhm.
campus too, where we have so many academic sessions. You can hear more about your specific major. You can eat in the dining hall. You listen to a student panel. You can chit chat with, students who are in the major that you're looking at. I think those sort of experiences kind of can connect a student to UNH. And I think that,
Mhm.
that's a really important piece for students when they're looking, to make that connection and be like,
Yeah.
oh, I can see myself in this student's shoes. And
Mhm.
it's fun too to have the current UNH student be like, oh, I remember 2 years ago when I was so stressed out as a senior looking at school, and this is what helped me with that
Yeah.
transition. So I think, our students are our best marketers in terms of, working with prospective students, and through that transition, because they've done it, they've lived
Mhm.
it recently. So
Nice. I think that's great advice. And I think it's a good place to kind of end the webinar today on.
great.
Thanks so much for taking the time, Chelsea. It's always good to see you. And if
Yeah.
anybody wants more information about UNH, you can pop over to their website. I know you guys have a great webpage with all the admissions counselors, and I believe you can type in your zip code and see who your specific admissions rep would be. So I think that's also the person who kind of takes the lead on reviewing your application. So um, definitely reach out. Chelsea and the rest of the team at UNH would love to chat with you. So, any final thoughts, Chelsea?
And no, just good luck, everyone. And yeah, know that we are a resource here. We're waiting for your questions and waiting to work with you. So yeah, just hop on our website, and we can look up who's my admissions counselor and find the person to contact. And thanks, Matt. This has been great.
Yeah. Well, we'll go to Q&A now, in case somebody has questions that they want to ask more privately. As a reminder, this will be on our YouTube page probably sometime next week, and then on our website maybe a little bit behind that. We're doing some changes to the Granite Edvance website, so but it'll be on our YouTube, and I'll make sure everybody who's registered has it in their email inbox as well. So moving to Q&A now.